Welcome, everybody. It is Sunday, December 27th, 2020, and we are so excited to be with you for this Indivisible TX Lege Live. I am super excited to have with me on the screen and in the Zoom universe of Indivisible TX Lege Live, Antoinette Perez, one of the OGs of Indivisible TX Lege. We got connected back in 2017 by some miracle of trying to do good work in Texas and have been able to continue doing good work since. Great to see you, Antoinette. How's your Sunday going?
It's so good. Thank you very much for inviting me to do this, Alex. I'm happy to be here with you too.
Well, we have a really important, critical, and hopefully exciting for those out there topic around today's live session. And the question that we're going to be trying to answer is, what does it mean to take action with Indivisible TX Lege? There's all these newsletters and posts and information. It's like, what does this all mean?
Yeah. Alex, you've been leading some really excellent Facebook Lives, and you've been featuring some wonderful organizers and activists in the group. And people keep talking about, when the Ledge session starts, take action, take action, take action. And it feels, I think, for people who haven't been through a legislative session with us, like a little bit of an abstract concept about what that means. How am I going to take action? So yeah, today let's get down into the details about what exactly that means in taking action.
Well, there's a couple of different options that we have for people, right? We talk about joining us, we do talk about our organizing team, be a part of our organizing team as a part of the recruitment that you'll hear from a lot of us. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's the only way to take action with Indivisible TX Lege. So let's dive into these different steps of the ladder of engagement.
For sure. And even before we get to the latter, I think an assumption that I'm making, and maybe this is not a great assumption, so if you're watching this video or this live and you have some comments and feedback to share, drop it in the comments section. But when I think about the Facebook Lives, Alex, that you've been leading, and I have read through some of the comment sections in previous broadcasts, it does seem like the audience for this is hitting the target. So we are definitely attracting progressive-minded Texans. It also feels like we are doing a great job of targeting folks who are ready to take action. And I would guess that some of you are already taking action. Some of you may be taking action at the federal level, or you could be involved at local things, and maybe Indivisible TX Lege is a way for you to stay tuned to what's happening at the state legislature level. So that's all great. When we talk about the different areas of how to be involved with our group, what we're looking for are basically folks who will take action, and we would call them activists. So these are people who simply see a call to action that we post during the legislative session in particular, because we'll post a lot of them during the legislative session, and they will take the action that is asked of them. Oftentimes, our actions are short. They are phone calls very often to be made, occasionally emails or other types of correspondence to various elected officials around the state. So an activist for Indivisible TX Lege is simply someone who will take action on one of those calls to action, or we hope as many of them as possible throughout the session. And that's kind of the simplest way to be involved, and the simplest way to be able to make sure that your voice is being heard and you're exercising your power at the state level.
Yeah, so whether you're connected to us on Facebook, you're watching these live sessions on YouTube, or it's Twitter, or you're on our mailing list, you see a list of actions to take from week to week, or it'll probably be daily as it gets really crazy in the Ledge session.
Yes.
And you have an opportunity to just simply take that on and make it happen. And like you said, these are short a lot of times, maybe takes 30 seconds, maybe a few minutes out of your day.
Right. That's
and
right.
You can knock it out. And that activist level is so critical, because all of the organizing, all the work is trying to get it out to as many Texans as possible. So every Texan who can take that first step of action as an activist and complete a call to action
Right.
helps us amplify the work that we're trying to organize around.
And last legislative session, we were able to quantify some of the calls to action and the responses to them that we had gotten. And I remember in one day, there were like over 500 calls. 500 activists around the state of Texas had responded to one of our calls to action and flooded the phone lines. And that level of constituent pressure and that level of pressure from everyday citizens is critical in helping to steer the legislature in the way that will really represent the needs of Texans best.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So we're got step one down.
Yes.
We hope everybody and anybody can help us take
That's
care
right.
of that level.
That's right.
Let's go to step two. What does that look like?
Step two is what we call internally super activists. And these are folks who are usually, they've got a flexible schedule. They could be working part-time, working from home with a flexible work schedule, or sometimes not working at all. Maybe they're retired or just simply don't have, an employment situation. These types of folks tend to plug in at a deeper level, and they are looking at maybe becoming a member of our Slack. They're looking at not just the tactical side of making the calls as we are asking people to make calls, but they're also starting to feed into the strategic thinking that's going on behind the scenes as well. So these super activists are folks who are regularly, consistently, frequently showing up in ways where we are able to collaborate together, strategize together, and be able to mobilize more Texans at the ledge.
Yeah, and these are really people who may just have, like you said, a little bit more autonomy to their time and their schedule, and or they may be one of the partners that we're connected with,
right,
who want to be connected and want to be a part of the conversation, like you said, and are at that super activist level that could really help us do the work. They are super important. We need those people to be able to engage and to be able to get their insights through, because their connections they have, the opportunity of work that they can do. So that super activist level is really critical to helping all of us take action and continue to organize.
That's right. And when people ask questions like, I'm interested in the work that Indivisible TX Lege does, and I want to be involved, but time is of the essence. To me, the amount of time invested makes a huge difference between whether somebody is an activist or a super activist with us. Because to be an activist could literally take 5 minutes a day, 2 or 3 times a week during the legislative session. And that's not a big request, I think, of most people who are really fighting for progressive values. On the flip side, though, for people who have more time and want to invest more time in this work, becoming a super activist does demand more. And that's where you're talking about hours, couple of hours a week investment. And I would also point out that we do have some super activists that have pretty rigid Monday through Friday, typical working day schedules, and are just hammering it out when they get home and are staying plugged in and doing that. And we're very grateful for that contribution as well.
Yeah, definitely. There's some key superstars that take on even more of the load so that we can continue to move forward.
That's right.
And that really transitions us to that third step of the ladder of engagement.
And that is the step of being an organizer. And organizers are people who are mobilizing other people on a strategy level. So these are folks that are plugging into advocacy partners. They're probably more up to date on specific issues. They might have networks of progressive activists and organizers to where they're really mobilizing many activists and other organizers. So they're definitely in the Slack, they're involved in strategy conversations, and we're having regular meetings on a weekly basis, sometimes more depending on what's happening up at the ledge during session.
Yeah, and that organizing element is critical because we need to be able to reflect and understand what the lay of the land is, what the conversations that are being had, and having that consistency around the work being able to move forward. So, some of those organizers we see as our huddle leaders, we see as our organizational leads or members of our comms team. helping leading some of that effort. These are the people who are helping the ship stay stable,
Right.
so that we can continue to do the good work that we're trying to do.
They could be a Slack administrator like me. They could be a Facebook Live host like you. That is the kind of work that we're talking about at the organizer level. It is definitely an investment in the organization itself and our community that we are building within Indivisible TX Lege. And all that said, right, there are places where we can do that. And if really all you're concerned with is making sure you're doing as much as you can in little pockets of time, we just want to reinforce that there's a place for you, and that is to be an activist in our network, just someone who is plugged in, getting the calls to action, and then taking action on those calls to action.
Because every piece of this ladder is important. We need every piece, and this is how we get to share the load of the work, and how we can get the information so that we know what actions are going to need to be taken during this legislative session. There's going to be so many things happening. So having those organizers at one level, being plugged in, being in the know, connected to the partners, seeing the calendar every day potentially of the legislative session, and then helping develop those calls to actions. And that's where those super activists, may help out with some of that, some of those tasks to help kind of get the call to action going, or just maybe there's some research or there's other things that they want to do to help support that overall strategy and work. And then the activists out there who help actually deliver on the work. They're the ones who are going to actually take that call to action and complete it to get it to the finish line. So each one of these steps so critical for us to be able to have that total impact that we're trying to have. We can't do one without the other.
That's right. Teamwork makes the dream work, especially in progressive activism.
So let's kind of, especially with our activist level, folks that are going to be, standing by, ready to take an action. They're going to see the email calls to action. Let's review with them in terms of just exactly how they can take action to make sure they're plugged in and they're ready to respond to this various work.
Perfect. Now, you, Alex, are dropping this into, or you've already dropped it into the description, right? Various links that I'm going to talk about right now. Okay, cool. So the first and most important thing that you can do is to sign up to receive our emails. One of our other OG organizers, Marika, does an incredible job of compiling and distributing an email every single week. It's usually on Sundays. And that email is going to be very rich in information. It may contain a call to action during session because calls to action are often, they require a timeliness element to them. Those weekly updates don't always have necessarily a call to action, but they're really great for being able to read the background on certain issues that have come up and things that we are anticipating we may need to ask people to take action on. So it is a wonderful thing to do to make sure that you are receiving that email, and then once you receive it every week, to read it so that you have more of that background information. You feel more knowledgeable and confident about the types of actions we will ask you to take. The second place to plug in if you are on Twitter is, of course, to follow the Indivisible TX Lege Twitter account. When we have calls to action, we're going to push those out through Twitter. And oftentimes the calls to action happen within minutes, and we're hoping that people will immediately be able to act on them. So Twitter is one of those rapid response areas where once you see a call to action, we probably are looking for people to act on it within minutes, an hour, that sort of thing. Very, very rapid response. And then, of course, the third place to find those calls to action would be our Facebook public page. I don't believe even have to be on Facebook to be able to view the public page or the updates that come out through it. So it's, of course, easier if you are on Facebook and then you like our page and ask to get the updates, because then it will push into your feed and you'll get notifications every time something comes up regarding that. Technically, we have a fourth area, which is our private Facebook group. And so if you are not in that and you would like to be a little bit more involved in some of the conversations that various activists are having around issues and strategies and things like that. That's definitely one place that you can go. But as far as calls to action and the immediacy of them, I would say the public Facebook page, the Twitter account are really the two places to go. So make sure you're plugged in, because that way you will get the calls to action while they're really hip, hot, and happening.
Yeah, and those are the spaces we're also trying to stay plugged in with different partners, with our
right.
organizers and our super activists. We have our internal space with Slack where we're really doing the prioritization of the work that we're focused on.
Right.
But with Twitter, we're out there trying to make sure that we're catching things from people who may be doing, all sorts of things at the Capitol and staying plugged in, as well as our closed Facebook group. There's a lot of different partners, a lot of different, people in Texas that are focused around this. And they just want to be able to use it as a place to kind of just touch base and let people know, hey, this is coming up. And so likewise, as an organization, as organizers, we're going to try to stay plugged in as well. So all the activists out there, make sure that you're plugged in so that you have your channel. We try to have a multitude of options for you. If there's one type of delivery of information that you prefer, we hope that we have it for you. If we don't, let us know in the comments and we'll look to see if we can add that capacity. But if you're an email person and you just want to get those emails, we've got an email that's going to be sent out to you. If you're a Facebook person and you want to be able to see it within your feed and check in on our page, then we've got that option. Like Antoinette said, Twitter as well. If you're a YouTube junkie, we'll be putting out the lives on YouTube as well. And so all these different spaces.
If you're into TikTok and you have that proficiency, we need to talk with you, right, Alex?
Absolutely. We would love to expand to TikTok.
There's some potential for TikTok, I think, in the state of Texas. So if you have that skill set, this is my scheming hands right here. Let's talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Instagram too. We are game to join Instagram, and like we said, our goal is to get it out to as many Texans as possible. So, we're very fortunate to be connected in all these various spaces with these various networks to make sure that we are distilling the information, distilling the actions to as many people as possible, as well as being connected to all these various organizations and partners so that we can capture it as well. And so a lot of work's going to be done during this session, and any piece that you're willing to tackle and take on will be a huge benefit for Texas.
And at the very minimum, if you can't do any of those things, you don't want to commit to that, totally get it. At least commit to taking action on those calls to action. So back to your question, Alex, step one, plug in and make sure you're receiving those calls to action in a timely way. And then step two, take action on those calls to action. During the session, it is critical that we respond with a level of immediacy. Sometimes there's a group that's meeting and they need to hear from us. Sometimes they're trying to meet in secret. We need to let them know that we know and that we see, and we only have oftentimes very small windows of opportunity to be able to make our voices known. So take that action. By and large, the actions that we ask for are literally like 1 minute or less phone calls. There may be more time involved if, for instance, there's a call tool. If, for instance, you don't know who you're calling in terms of your elected official, and then there's a couple of things that you need to click to look that up. What I also find is that sometimes activists feel like they want more background information on something before they make a call. So there may be times where you want to budget a little bit more time before you do a call to action if you feel like you have to do that level of rigorous research before you make the call. But if you're ready to just read the script that we're and you're ready to call the number that we give you, all in all, these are things that will probably take you less than a minute, certainly less than 2 minutes to do. So of course, step two is take action. And then step three is one that we ask all of our activists to do. You're going to hear us say this a lot throughout the session. You're going to hear us use this term, rapid response 5. We're asking every progressive activist who is in our network to set up in your phone a call list, a distribution list of 5 people. And these are 5 people who are not the typical usual suspects. They're not already knee-deep in progressive activism, but you know that they share progressive values. So these may be people that you have heard commiserating over the last presidential administration over the previous 4 years, but they're not really organizing with a group. They're not taking regular action. I would put these people, at least 5 of them, into a distribution list on your phone. And when you receive that call to action, push the call to action out to those 5 people, and then check in with them and make sure that they are taking action on it as well. We had about 10 or 15 activists last session that had their own rapid response 5, and they would check in with them. They would confirm with us that they pushed calls to action out and were following up to make sure that their own friends and family were taking action as well. And you can't imagine how that can amplify this effort. If every single one of us is able to identify 5 people that are not already taking the action, ask them to do these things, we have a tremendous effect on the outcomes of lots of decisions that get made at the state legislature.
Yeah, we hear with getting out the vote, relational organizing,
Mhm.
connecting with the people, this is really that relational activism. And sometimes we can take for granted that, oh, well, I need to get this person or this person that's in this, space, or this person that's in that network. Take a look first at your family and friends, because
Mhm.
those are sometimes the people that, while you're close to them, they may not be close to the work that you're doing, and they would be a great candidate to be able to be a part of your response 5. So I'm talking about spouses, partners, siblings, parents,
Mhm.
grandparents,
Mhm.
nieces and nephews.
Mhm.
Look at that network that you have within your own family as an opportunity to see if there's anybody who aligns with the work that is trying to be done through Indivisible TX Lege and these calls to action, so that they are being able to have their voice heard and a part of the process. It's like you said, it's an amazing way for us to quickly multiply
Mhm.
the amount of impact that we can have. And you talked about the need for immediate action, because we need, there's these little meetings that will happen at the Capitol, or these, there'll be a committee meeting, in the gallery essentially, and they'll all gather around a desk and discuss. And typically, I don't want to say 100% guarantee, but typically these are not in relation to the things that we want to happen. The legislation that we're wanting to get passed that will help Texans and move Texas into a better and brighter future are usually more public, and they want the process to be seen and for people to engage. It's unfortunately from these legislators that want to do things and pass legislation in Texas that are not helpful, that are actually at many times harmful and hurtful to Texans, that they try to do within the nooks and crannies of the Capitol so that they can move this forward.
Right.
And so that's why we need to be vigilant, and that's why we need those responses to happen as quickly as possible.
And that vigilance begins before the session begins. I think we issued our first call to action last session before gavel in, because there was a Secretary of State who had done a voter purge and was like, oops, my bad. And then they were trying to push his confirmation through, or so. It can be a hot mess, and we are required. Our presence and our vigilance and our effort is required to keep this thing moving in not such a terrible direction.
So a couple of key things we want to highlight just to make sure everybody has them is, what do the CTAs, which CTA we call calls to action, what do they look like? And typically, as Antoinette said, it's going to be a script of some form, some information on who to contact, who to call. And if we have background information to help provide you the insights that you need to understand this particular issue, we'll have those available as well. And so our goal is to have these one pagers, or on our website, this breakdown of the call to action, so you have everything you need to make that happen.
And it's a work in progress. We are probably going to try to streamline it and update it to some degree from last session. What we were really moving toward last session was a square graphic that is tweetable, Instagrammable, very social media friendly. And you can imagine that on that tiny square, you can't fit a ton of information. So usually in the description or the caption of the photo is a link to, as Alex said, a research sheet or, an article that gives a little bit more background information. But the script itself, the phone number to call, we try to put that in the graphic itself.
Well, Antoinette, we have 4 days until the end of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
It is on the brink of being over. And the hope is that, this entire year has some closure and we get to move forward into a brighter day. Being in the middle of a pandemic feels like things can get pretty dark with all the things that we've been seeing. And so with these final few days of 2020, we hope that this information is going to be motivating, encouraging to be ready to take action, because while we want 2021 to be that brighter day for us, that brighter year for us, we have the Texas legislative session coming up.
That's right.
And you just never know. So the only way we can help ensure that it is as good as we want it to be is by everyone being involved. And these steps of the ladder of engagement, as well as how to take action, we hope that this breakdown provides you that encouragement and motivation to be a part of this network and the work that we're doing.
We are excited.
Well, Antoinette, any final encouragement you would like to give to everybody out there as a way of being prepared for this ledge session as we're coming up?
Well, you laid a great foundation for what I'm about to say, which is when we look toward that brighter 2021, just remember that 2021 is going to end in 369 days or whatever. This legislative session is the first 5 months of that year. So even though we may have a goal that the year as a whole ends up brighter, the way that we're going to do it is by setting daily goals to make the calls, to take the actions. And those daily goals may not look super fun and glamorous. That's how we move the needle. And it's going to take lots of us to be able to move the needle on a state this big with so much at stake, so many lives at stake. So in advance, thanks for your commitment to doing this work. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for engaging with us. We definitely want to count you as part of the Indivisible Texas Lege Network. And thank you, Alex, for your consistency in these Facebook Lives. You're amazing.
Well, thankfully, we have a lot of amazing organizers like yourself to be able to highlight so that we can show people the amazing group we have gathered and all the work that they're doing. And one of those elements is from Lauren Ortel, who's helping organize our kickoff party on January 9th, 2021. It'll be a Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And we are really excited and want everybody to be a part of this party. So where we're going to have some fun. We're going to be focusing on, highlighting some information for you so that you can, know what we're doing, some of our legislative priorities and things like that. But we definitely want you to be there. Have some fun with us. Let's have some social time. We don't get as much social time as we'd like during the pandemic. And so it won't be all business. We want to make sure we're having some quality, fun time together. And we have this game called Spark that's going to help make that happen for all of us.
It's going to be fun. And, to Alex's point, we often are running so quick through the session that we don't socialize. So this is a way for us to kick off our work in a really fun, bonding, connected kind of way. So hopefully we'll see you there. Come in and say hi.
Absolutely. Well, Antoinette, this is our first Indivisible TX Lege live together. I can't wait till we have many, many, many more, which we'll see. We may have a string of daily live sessions because how it gets really crazy, and we want to get everybody on board with what's happening, what needs to be done. But we hope everyone enjoys the rest of their Sunday. We will be back with you very soon because the year is ending and we want to take some time reflecting on it. And so make sure you're plugged into our Facebook page, and we're going to have some exciting content coming up. And if you haven't taken the actions from last week's newsletter, check them out. Take a few moments, get them knocked out.
Happy holidays, everyone.